What does it take to go from a small town in Montana to serving in mission aviation? Listen as Phil shares his remarkable journey of faith.
All right. So, just a few quick things about me. I was born in Pennsylvania, grew up in northwest Montana. Started flying remote control airplanes somewhere around the age of 12. My family has no aviation background, just to be clear. My mom and dad were Amish when they got married. Soon after they got married, they joined the Mennonites, and that's how I would have grown up. So big family, lots of siblings, but zero aviation. Not sure where the love for airplanes came from even. Ever since I was a
You
little
were just
kid,
rebellious.
I was just rebellious, yes.
Machines.
Most of it. Ever since I was a little kid, playing with Legos, I'd be making airplanes. And then as I got older, obviously that led into wanting remote control airplanes, which at first my parents were kind of concerned that might spark something bigger, which it did. Thankfully, they did give me the remote control airplanes, and then, from there, worked my way up into actual airplanes. This picture on the top right, that is where I initially learned how to fly in Montana. Old Skyhawk, Cessna Skyhawk there, grass airstrip about 4,000 feet long. Actually, it's 3,500. So going into Peone, that felt very much at home in the DC-3 there. So then the bottom picture that is in Idaho where I got my tail wheel. More on that later.
Who's the guy in the picture? I can't see his face.
This one, that is also me.
Oh, okay.
Started private pilot training in 2018. That was also a godsend. Where I lived in Montana, I was at least a 2-hour drive from the nearest flight school. And so pilot training looked kind of hopeless. And I was like, man, how am I ever going to do this? And then our neighbor, literally a mile down the road, he was a Seventh-day Adventist, but he was a missionary pilot and an instructor. And he moved back from Alaska, retired there at his place in Montana, and that is his airstrip and his airplane. And once he found out that I wanted to get my pilot's license, he said, come on over, I'll teach you how to fly. And so we started training in 2018, and Jim and I had a great time. He was one of those instructors that would talk nonstop throughout the whole flight, and by the end of the flight, I would be sweating just from working so hard. And he's very much an old-fashioned guy. When we started flying, he said, if you want to learn how to fly like an airliner, you go to a flight school. They'll teach you all the rules and the regs. I said, but I'm going to teach you how to bush fly. I'm going to teach you how to actually fly a plane. And he did. He did a really good job of teaching me how to fly. So that was kind of the start of my aviation journey. This is my family with all the in-laws and outlaws and grandkids. So there's 8 of us siblings. I'm on the far left there. This was at my sister's wedding last summer. As of that wedding, there's no more new babies, and there's 40 of us. Wow. So this August, a sister is having a baby, so I'll be number 41 in our family. So when we all get together, it's a party. There's kids everywhere. There's a bounce house going. There's people, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Some more pictures. This was pretty much life in Montana, flying on the weekends whenever I could, fishing, and then working a day job, building custom homes, garages, doing construction work. That's how I paid for the fishing and the flying. Then, a little bit more about my flight training. As Jim and I were very close to actually finishing up my private license, I only needed like 5 hours and a little bit of night, a little bit of cross-country time. He got in a plane crash with a student in a different airplane and broke his back. And that just kind of shut everything down as far as my private pilot license training. And I was like, well, now what do I do? And I knew about Northern Air. I knew about Bonner's Ferry from previous, I'd been up there in that area a few times, visiting some friends and stuff like that. But I decided, you know what, I'll go up to Northern Air and I'll finish my pilot license there. It was toward the end of the year. Winter was on its way. Jim's airstrip was closed from December to April anyway because of the snow, muddy. And so I went to Northern Air and I finished my private pilot license there. Um, After I did that, obviously I still lived in Montana, but I felt the call from Mission Aviation. And once again, I was, God, how do I do this? All I have is my private pilot license. I need my A&P. I need all the way through commercial license, and depending on what I do, I need multi-engine. And really, God opened the doors for me to move to Idaho and to work at Northern Air as an apprentice, an A&P apprentice in the maintenance shop there. And so that's exactly what I did. Moved up end of December of 2020, right after COVID. Moved to Idaho, packed up all my things, and it was really the start of, I don't know, I would say probably the best and the worst times in my life. It was really, really lonely living in Idaho, away from all my family, friends that I had grown up with. Yes, there was a church and friends there in Idaho, but there was numerous things that happened outside of aviation, heartbreaks, this, that, and the other thing. It was some of the worst and loneliest times I went through, but really God used that to just direct my attention on Him. And it, my faith in God grew because God was really all I had at some point. Like it just became a daily walking with God, seeking God, and looking back, that's exactly where He needed me. Jeff might actually recognize this airplane up here in the top right. That is the airplane he got his commercial license in at Northern Air, ironically. So it's pretty cool to make that connection here. Working in North Idaho, a few different projects there, working on some flaps, learned how to weld. I was able to build some tailwheel flight times, some experience there. That was nice. And then on there in that picture, that was when I got my A&P license. That's where I finished that. Back then I had a beard, which I don't care to grow out anymore. It's very warm. Um,
It's
but
photo proof you can grow one though.
it is photo proof that I
Welcome
can
to
grow.
adulthood.
Thank you. Anyway, so yes, Idaho, I look at it as a training ground, a wilderness experience, if you will, an experience that really hyper focused my attention on God. Also had some good times in Idaho, as you can tell. I like to turn airplanes upside down. I think that's a lot of fun. And really, going through the difficult times in Idaho led me in a roundabout way to here. In the summer of 2020, I think it was 2024, I spent 6 weeks in Northwest Ontario with this mission organization right here called Northern Youth Programs. And I was there for the summer, just wanted to get away from Idaho, wanted to go see something different, meet some new people. And it was there that I met Dennis Stelfer, who is a board member of MFI. And I spent a number of hours riding around in Northwest Ontario in that caravan right there with Dennis. And so we were talking. Obviously, he knew that I wanted to do mission aviation. He knew kind of what my goal was. And he's like, you know what, you should go check out MFI. I think you'd be a good fit. And so that inspired me to come down here. Would have been end of April of last year, so just over a year ago. I came to MFI for the first time, and I don't know. I spent about 10 days here, and it almost immediately felt like this is where God was calling me. I didn't have all the ratings and the certifications yet, but I was like, you know what? They need help. I can get the ratings. Kind of like Florida, it's warm. It's not, there's no long cold winters there, things like that. And so after I was down here, I went home and I got my multi-engine rating. That was actually in Ohio. I went out there to the fast track program, got my multi-engine, and that was really the last rating I needed to come here and serve. I should backtrack a little bit. When I was here initially, I got to ride out to the Bahamas. I think it was Governor's Harbor with you and Phil Carnes. And just seeing you guys operate the DC-3 in the Bahamas, I thought that was literally the coolest thing ever. I was like, yes, I want to do that. So that, you guys really, really inspired me to, finish up the ratings, go home, started talking about coming to MFI. And then it was a few months later, and actually, again, about that, before I even got home, actually before I even left MFI, Leo handed me an employee application and said, here, fill this out. Don't leave until you filled it out. And so anyway, went home, prayed about it, and then obviously made one more short trip down here to do the official interview process. Once that was all done, I went home and started raising support. And then I moved. I was here in June of last year. Started raising support fairly aggressively because I was living by myself, didn't have anything to do in the evenings and the weekends. So I just called everybody that I knew, sent tons of messages and emails, just went for it. And by October, I moved down pretty much fully funded. And that whole process as well has been a God thing. I was working for a small maintenance shop. There was 3 mechanics in there, the owner, myself, and an apprentice. We did between 40 to 50 annual inspections on airplanes a year. So we were busy. I knew that myself moving out of there was going to leave him shorthanded. And what I didn't realize is, well, while I was here doing the interview, he was interviewing a guy to take my place. And so it was like God just provided everything literally as in real time. It was amazing to watch it all come together. And it continues to be amazing since I've moved here. I mean, there's been so many things where I just have to be like, is this even real? I mean, from flying the DC-3, obviously, flying into an air show, parking next to the Blue Angels, flying my girlfriend home from the air show. Like, I don't know. There's just time after time after time. I'm just amazed at what God has done and how he has just been faithful. I mean, yeah, over and over and over. And I can't thank him enough. It's truly been an adventure of a lifetime, really, just following him, seeking him. And that it continues to be that way, and it will continue to be that way for a while, I believe. And I just look forward to what he has for me here, and look forward to growing here and to just pouring myself into this place and watching God work. These verses from Psalms have been kind of my theme verses for a long time now, if you will. O God, thou hast taught me from my youth, and hitherto have I declared thy wondrous works. Now also when I am old and gray-headed, O God, forsake me not, until I have showed thy strength unto this generation, and thy power to everyone that is to come. Those verses have always just struck me. Like, David had a hold of something. He had a hold of, the strength of God, and he wanted to show that to everybody around him. And that's what I want to do too, is like, just look at what God can do. From a young boy in Northwest Montana with big dreams and hopes, with really, you could say, no path to get to his dreams. I didn't have my grandpa didn't have an airplane, my brothers didn't fly, my dad doesn't like flying. How's this supposed to happen, But time after time, God just put the right people at the right time, at the right place. Sometimes they were difficult things that got me to different places, but it was exactly where I needed to go for God to get me here. And so, this quote at the bottom is I recently listened to a podcast series on the life of, I guess his name was Stanley Dale and Phil Master. These were 2 men that really pioneered the mission outreach work in Papua New Guinea right after the country opened. And they were actually both martyred eventually for their mission work. But this is one of Phil Master's quotes here. It was worth it, even if the Church of Jesus Christ was never planted here. And then he's talking about Papua New Guinea. For the splendor of Christ, just to make the attempt was a privilege worth more than life itself. And it just struck me, like, you don't meet many missionaries like that anymore. I mean, Haiti is a very evangelized country. Obviously, it needs a lot more. But I just have to ask myself, if there was no churches in Haiti, would it be worth it to do the things we do, to accept the risks that we take, just to just for the love of Christ to make the attempt. Like that in and of itself would even be worth it. So I just want to encourage you all with that, sometimes we don't see the work that God is doing in our lives. Sometimes we don't see the work that God is using us for, but like my life is proof. He's always working. He's always working to use our past and our present for the future, and like every part of it. So thank you for that.
If you were encouraged by Philip's story, we invite you to prayerfully consider becoming a monthly partner and joining his support team as he serves through Missionary Flights. To start your partnership, visit missionaryflights.org/Weaver. Together, we can carry the gospel, deliver hope, and impact lives for Christ across the Caribbean.